Here we are in the round of 8. In the bottom right, it's Elazer. That doesn't rhyme with anything. Doesn't rhyme with 8 for sure. Crap. Well, that goes my song. It's amazing being able to not rhyme anything with anything. I actually think it's a talent to be so bad at rhyming things. Like, I feel like I'm really good at being bad at it, you know? I feel like I'm really good at being bad at it. Top left-hand side will be classic as we kickstart this PvZ best of 5 then, and we look to see where we will end up. Let's start Chrono Boost out on the next a little bit there and get that started and see what's going to happen. So a few probes popping out. We do see one probe out around the left-hand side. It's going to come across down to the bottom right-hand corner, so moving along over there. Getting that set up. Let's probe out down to the bottom right. Bit of action here early. And of course, probably expecting to see a lot of Stargate play in this series. But Classic in general has just had very good PvZ lately. Like, if I'm excited about anyone's PvZ, it's Classic. And I don't know if it's just because it's cool to see Classic doing well and winning games and everything, or what, but I really have enjoyed watching his games recently. Like, his PvZ is consistently great. We watched him beat Rogue in the Limo League finals recently. That was very cool. It just looked good across the board in a lot of the matches he's been playing, right? I think that's the most important thing, perhaps, is that he's just looking so good in these games. And he's doing it with a variety of styles. It's not like he's just abusing Sky Toss or anything. Like, he's playing some pretty cool, like, you know, ground armies and, you know, Sky Toss into ground armies, just mixing the builds up. If Classic keeps playing like this, I think he's going to be... I mean, he's already very good, but I think he'll be absolutely top tier and beyond next year. I really think he could be, I don't want to say championship winning level. You know, that's maybe, again, a little bit ahead of myself, but, like, honestly, he's making steps to being at that sort of stage again, if nothing else. In my opinion. So yeah, I really do think Classic's been playing great lately. And if he can bring his, especially if he just plays the other matchups like he can play the PvZ, then he would absolutely be getting into a fantastic spot. Then he'd be continuously improving. So yeah, I mean, his PvZ is definitely something he seems to have figured out nicely. Anyways, let's see what happens as we just have our Stargate coming through and everything getting set up. Guys, would you like a prediction in the chat? Because I don't see any predictions up, and no one's shouting at me for it, but for once I'm kind of like, huh, there's no predictions going on. Just because I kind of thought maybe I would have a look and see who was favored, but you know what? Let's do it. Classic, Elazer, you guys have fun, okay? You guys waste all your wardy points. As long as you waste them responsibly, it's absolutely fine, okay? You guys have fun. You guys think Elazer's going to 5-0? Well, I don't know if he's as good as Rogue. Being able to 5-0 a series that goes to, you know, 5 games at the best of 5 is something I feel like only Rogue can really pull off reliably. Oh, that was such a meme. He was so dead in that series as well. Like, he was in so much trouble. He's like, yeah, I basically won 5-0. Did not agree at all, Rogue. That was funny. Queen's out the front as we get set up. Oracle is going to be about to finish up here. So again, that Oracle completed in the early stages, and yeah, so far so good. Just a little bit of, okay, we are going to start +1 air weapons, so we are looking to see probably a little bit more from that altogether. The Voidray and the Oracle coming in here again. One queen already looking for a second one. That second queen's going to get chased away. The Oracle gets out alive as well. Did the Voidray get the queen? Voidray did indeed get the queen. So that's 2 queens dead early game. Feeling's going to go counterattack from Elazer, try and get some damage done of their own across the map. And they move to try and put the work on a little bit. Next on the third going to be Finishing up there. It's taking a little bit of damage, right? It's taking a bit of a beating off those lings, but keeping it alive is the most important part as we do continue now to build up into the bigger and better Void Ray numbers. And we'll be having those representing the majority of Classic's army for the foreseeable future. Now, Elazer is one player that absolutely is not afraid of a good old Queen Walk. And with that in mind, I mean, you look on this map. One thing on this map is I feel like the gap in the middle of the natural and the third is very open. So if you get up there, then brilliant. But once you get across the map, it actually can be a little bit weird. So what I'm talking about is, this Oracle gets pushed away. Usually you would come up here, and if you take down these rocks, it's a pretty quick push across, but it takes a while to take the rocks down. Yesterday, I think we saw Solar come up here and then go around here to push into the third base. If you push up here, it's still kind of a distance to go to get on top of the third, and then you're potentially being surrounded. So if you do make a move on a Queen Walk, there's a few things to keep in mind. I think it can be absolutely a fine map for the Queen Walks, but it just also maybe lures you in with a false sense of security. It can work a bit weird just because I feel like the base layout's a little bit stranger than, you know, most maps that we've been seeing as of late, so... That's the one thing I really feel about Cosmic Sapphire, and I felt it pretty much constantly, and I don't know why, but it just feels different, you know? Like, I feel like the way the natural to the third base works, because of that long pathway out of the natural, I don't know if it's just like a bias that I've had like subconsciously since the start because it looked weird. I don't know if it really matters that much. I just feel like it plays weird because of it, you know? It just I'm not convinced how I should feel about it, I suppose. If that makes sense. And get the stasis ward up behind the mineral line there, so able to catch a single drone. Queen's coming across, pushing the Void Rays out across the left-hand side, so they get chased away as well. Not the left they go, as we just have the Queen coming through and the Oracle taking a little bit of damage again. So, bits and pieces of damage being dealt right now. Mostly the Void's going to try and keep some map control on together here. Elazer obviously not Queen walking, just going in towards his Spire. He's going to get the +1 missile upgrade going as well, so all of that setting up. He's actually going to find an Overlord out in the center too. And yeah, just clean up some OVs, clean up some creep. I mean, this is really nice damage, right? It adds up over time and really continues to put you in a very good spot overall, I would say. Unfortunately, there goes the Oracle, so it will fall, but I mean, it's had a good game, and the resources lost is tilted into Classic's favor so far. 18 Corruptors all coming up now. As Corruptors come in, +1 missiles finishes, there's no Roaches on the map. I almost felt like maybe we see like a Corrupted timing here, just Corruptors to try and straight up win out. But, well, maybe not. Also going to see those couple carriers are coming through as well, so that continuing to build here. So all of that continues to establish at the moment as we have our Archons, Zalds, and Voids out this right-hand side. Just going to sit on top of the third base. And if this attack of Elazer commits in, I mean, the Queens are all out over here. So it really feels like he wants to try, at the very least, to move through for this. Just isn't seemingly fully convinced by it just yet. Corruptors are working their way around, trying to find a way to deal some extra damage themselves initially, and unfortunately, some of them do find themselves reinforcements kind of fly through the main Protoss army, which obviously makes that a little bit painful and maybe not quite fully effective. As now we're going to be seeing the Disruptor Shot going to be good on these Queens. I mean, that's basically forcing transfusions already. The faster you're forcing out transfusions, the better of a position you're going to be in overall. Elazer will continue through with all of these Corruptors, so they'll continue in, and multiple Void Rays continuing to drop down. A lot of these Voids continuing to go down here. It's taking a ton of damage. Elazer's just not going to have enough, though. He can just not break through. He's got a lot of money in the bank as he dies as well. Just doesn't think he can break on through. You can just see that the numbers are dropping. I mean, the Corruptors were doing okay. It's just songs that nobody's heard before. Top left-hand side is going to be our Blue Protoss player from Alpha X. This is Classic. Bottom right-hand corner, the red Zerg player from XCOM Argo is Elazer. Looking to bounce back a little bit after the attempted corruptor bust on that last game. Didn't quite go the way he wanted it to. Moondance is this base that has the very interesting pocket third base, right? And the main part to note is that that's not full base. You don't get double gas on it. You only get 6 mineral patches. So yes, it's an easier, quicker to take third, but it comes at a cost of not being a fully set up third base, right? So definitely should, for the most part, have an impact on your kind of choices here. I think the Zergs will pretty much always take a map or a base out on the map more than anything else. I don't think there's any reason to take it in a different, take a different approach as the. I don't think there's any reason to take a different approach as the Zerg. I think you can take that base much later in the game as a bit of a mineral boost or so. I think initially you just take a base out on the map. It's not like those bases on the map are impossible to defend. They're just pretty normal bases. Now, from the Protoss, I do think you've got much more of a choice, because as the Protoss, you really can maybe take a much faster third base, and it's way safer than usual, but like I say, it comes at that cost of not being a full base. Or do you just try and take a base normally anyway, and then you can, again, maybe fall back to that base later for a fourth or so? I think it's an interesting set of questions. I mean, the safety that you have by taking this base initially is pretty huge, though. Makes a big difference. The Lings will move back away as we just have our probe scout out this right side. One of the weird things about this pocket base is that you don't actually know what that base is, whether that base is taken or not for a long time as the other player, right? It's difficult to scout location because it's the super far bottom corner, so you've got to really, commit through to be able to see it. So it also raises a couple of question marks as to how exactly, the game will pan out, and it's interesting for sure. I kind of like the map simply for the fact that it makes us ask ourselves, hey, like, which base do we like the most? What sort of style are we going to see? How do players respond to what they see as well? Does something get hidden away? I don't know, it just feels like there's a lot of complexity by adding that in. And again, it's been such a long time since we've seen, like, pocket bases in, like, the ladder and so on, so I'd be really kind of surprised if... It's one of those things which I think, like, people are also very, like, we used to be very against pocket bases because it's just like, it made the game boring. You just turtle up much more easily, etc. I feel like a pocket base that, again, makes you kind of have this decision. And like I said, I feel like I like it a lot more, but I suppose we'll see how it all pans out. Yeah, like I say, it might be one of those things as well, which for the map contest, it's cool, it's different, it's fresh. But if it ever came onto the ladder, we'd get sick of it right away, It's also another little something to consider. Another possibility in how this can all pan out as we just see our queens getting across to zone out the initial void ray, so that gets pushed out of here. Couple Lings still just continuing through as well. Taking a little bit of damage, a couple of oracles and voids, just trying to get as much done as they can early on. And I feel like it's just holding on the other side of the map. At this point, you're pretty much aware, I would imagine, that it's going to be that backwards base. Like I say, you're missing a gas here, so we'll see if that impacts Classic at all. We'll see if that's something he has to adjust to. Missing a 6 gas will have an impact on how much Stargate he can build, so I almost wonder if he wants to build like a ground army behind this. I think this is a map Zerg's going to veto in ZVP. Don't know about other matchups. Nah, I definitely think it sucks for Zergs, because for Zergs, they don't really benefit from having that base in the back, because they're kind of like, well, why even take that base? I can hold my 3 bases so easily anyway. So it really does aid Terran and Protoss a lot more than it aids Zerg. And then, if it's in that regard, I think I don't know if it's an insta-veto, because I don't know if it's a bad map, right? Like, I don't know if it's so bad to play on for Zerg anyway. But it definitely feels like it just naturally is going to give Terrans and Protoss an easier time in the matchup versus Zerg. I mean, I guess then it depends on the map pool and what other maps you have to play on potentially, as to whether you want to really kind of, go as far as to veto this one. I can understand the concept of maybe needing to veto it, though. I don't disagree. It really depends on what map pool it ended up in, right? What the other maps are like. Because at the end of the day, like I say, it's maybe not the worst map to actually play on. It's not like the layout is horrible and nasty and stuff. So yeah, good choices as we move through, and we're just going to be seeing our Queen's taking down a creep tumor here, so clearing that out as the creep is already now established a bit further forward. Doesn't need that, was maybe afraid of it blocking him or so. Or blocking something you want to build. There goes the Oracle again, so that gets shot down for a second game in a row. As it just gets a little bit too adventurous towards a group of Queens. This has got Queens that are going to push back these Void Rays as we have the Infestation Pit, which is on its way up, +1 missiles going through as well. I mean, Classic just straight into charge +1, but also a Fleet Beacon and a Robo Bay. So set himself up to build carriers, but will also have the ground support of Disruptors and Charge Lots. So really just giving himself a little bit of everything, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for. A little bit of everything there's nothing wrong with that for the most part, as these Voids continue through again. Going to keep on getting a couple of these Crypt Teamers here and there. Doing alright with that, and need to do some decent damage. Straight to the carriers then, as mentioned, with that Disruptor support. Obviously, this is the thing, right? I mean, this sort of base does allow you to then, basically when you come out to take your 4th base, it's like taking a 3rd. So you can take a 4th base without all the complications of having to take the 3rd and dealing with a lot of the early aggression that might have denied the 3rd base, for example. So that makes a pretty big difference for sure, right? Now you're just getting up to the 4 base setup. I mean, it's going to be, like I say, even better for you here. Definitely looking pretty good across the board for Protoss on this map and PvZ. Now, Elazer with Neural Parasite on the way, he really is just already accepting that he's going to play a later game situation here, so kind of just accepting that right off the bat, and just sort of saying, yeah, okay, well, we're going to play into this kind of later game, that's fine. Elazer, I remember when we interviewed him in DreamHack one time, he said, he's kind of fine playing one later game PvZ in a series, he just, he doesn't want to play late game every single time, because obviously if you play it every single time, it goes, it becomes a very long series, and it can become very frustrating and so on, so maybe this will be his one, and it's down a game. Hoping that the late game can maybe turn it around for him. The scary thing is, though, if you win this game in the late game and then you lose another game kind of trying to end it early, then surely you have to keep on playing late game, right? If that's the one thing that works for you. We might be in for a long one then, as we do see Classic settling down with the carriers and the Disruptors. Elazer settling down with the Infestors, the Vipers, all of the Spellcasters are now coming online. +2 missiles, Roach Speed, Burrow, Carapace upgrades, everything you can really afford right now coming in upgrade-wise and setting us up for the later game here. You can see the Spine Crawler wall building up over there too, Spore Crawler Forest as well. It just becomes this sort of stage where you kind of need those as well, right? Especially once this goes later game. A lot of PvZ doesn't end when you get into these stalemate positions because it's a question mark of, well, hey, I don't want to attack into your stack defense. Well, I don't want to attack into your stack defense. They both camp out on each other, on their own static defense. And that's how the games then end up playing, as we do get rid of a Changeling out over to the side. The carriers sit out overhead with the Void Rays. And a couple of Disruptors moving off to the left as well. So all of this coming out the far left side. To start out with here. And we'll just drop down a Pylon and a Nexus. Keep this going. Again, a Changeling over there too, so picking that off as well. Obviously just kind of maxed out on the carriers at the moment, and Waiting for whatever might follow that up. Obviously, I mean, as classic, if you want to improve your situation here, you want to go into the yeah, basically you want to go in towards the ground units that are going to aid you, basically, right? The idea of getting some getting some storms up, some splash damage. The Archons might be nice. He's going to have Flux Veins as well, improve the Void Rays. You do definitely need something that's going to hit the Infestors. You do not want to let those Infestors just kind of chill out on the ground and do as they wish. That would be really, really bad for you if you let that happen. So that's one thing you've got to be very careful of. Stack defense really is just build up everywhere at the moment, so again, a lot of spores invested here, and both players will continue to take their corners off the map, and PvZ turns out to be still very much so like PvZ. Our longest map of the tournament so far, by the way, just because this one might go very long, is 38 minutes, Clem versus Elazer, so Elazer was already part of the longest map of the tournament. And maybe this could be a candidate as well. Like I said, it's you can see the setup and you can see why it will not end anytime soon. Neither of these players are really putting themselves in a position where they're like, oh yeah, come on, fight me. You know, come, you know, why would you just push into the other guy's base, basically, is the point I'm trying to make. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to commit for something like that. Will have ducked in one of the carriers. The Disruptor gets brought through too. The Infestors are just sat there, and somehow that Disruptor gets out alive. Wow. Oh, wow. Gets the Neuroparasite on a High Temple, and he dropped a feedback. We'll obviously bring that forward, and we'll be able to get the kill on it now. But nice to get a feedback on another HT. That obviously uses up 2 High Templars of energy, and you obviously get a kill on one. So that was actually a pretty neat little Neuroparasite, not one you see every day. That one worked out decently. That was cool. Singling still just nibbling in the top right hand corner. Void Rays and carriers make their way around the left hand side. They're going to make their way down to the south here kind of soon and push into these bottom side bases. So it's going to be classic, the first to fight. He has a little bit more minerals in the bank right now, as obviously Disruptors will try and go through there, and he actually clips an Infestor as he hits the Queens in the Microbial Shroud. Obviously, it's kind of a funny thing, right, where the Microbial Shroud encourages these Queens to stack up together, and that's where the Disruptors are going to have their most fun. Well, the first fight was pretty inoffensive on either side. Obviously, the backup to just go and get your Interceptors rebuild, etc., goes down on the side of the Protoss player, so Classic just backs up a little bit, slows this down. See all of these Queens still hanging out on the bottom. Classic takes yet another base on the far left. There's really been no attempt to really try and harass down bases, but that might be something that changes soon. We're getting to the kind of point at which the ultras are on the map, etc., and starting to deny some of these external bases, especially because obviously they're coming up in more and more adventurous locations. It is absolutely getting to the stage where actually, yeah, dealing with that would be pretty important and something to really think about. So, yeah, a couple of these ultras on the map, run out to the left-hand side, try and deny that fresh base, for example, could go a long, long way. Three more Stargates are finishing as well, by the way, so we're going to go to 9 Stargates of production. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous as well, right? He's just ready to rebuild everything in an instant. I mean, of course he should be. I mean, there's the counterattack on that left side base, which I said I wanted to see, so yes, thank you very much, Elazer. That's exactly what I wanted. I do think that helps. Definitely is a step in the right direction. As those 11 probes will hold out off to the side. He's going to try and get the disruptors through here, deal a little bit of initial damage, and start on through. Just going to drop a microbial shroud there to try and deal with it, though, and just try and hold this off. How many spores are actually on the map? 82. I mean, it's always somewhat crazy numbers in games like this, right? So that shouldn't be overly, wild to think about. As you see, a few more probes going down. I like this harassment. I mentioned it a few moments ago. It's kind of what I asked for, right? It's kind of what I wanted to see a little bit more from Elazer once this game developed and got to this sort of point. It felt like those openings were continuing to build, and the opportunity to do harassment like that was only ever increasing. With some carriers continuing up, these few carriers coming in from the left-hand side, going to go join back up toward the center. So they're going to come back into the middle of the map, and everything getting joined up there as mentioned previously. All of that coming through. Well, our banelings are pretty decent as well. Obviously, we can jump on the High Templar like that. That's amazing. Suddenly there's no storms. Suddenly Classic is going to be very scared, and you can see immediately kind of, recalls back. No storm, no splash damage, just makes it a little bit more difficult to turn units away from your carriers and everything else, right? So, just trying to be a little bit annoying with that. Classic going to come back down the left-hand side. This new High Temple will have some energy at least, so some storms are available once again. And they're definitely expecting those to make a difference. You do see the Ultras have again gone to the top right-hand side, so Lasers again looking to make these plays. But he is just out here denying bases and denying economy. Difficult for Classic to hold on against that. Now he's going to take this fight over here. Microbial Shroud going down, but the storms are great, and these queens are just not transfusing each other. The Lazer's obviously just very caught up in the moment of everything else that's going on. But yeah, he was not really doing what he was meant to do there in the slightest, unfortunately. More disruptor shots coming through. It means that Classic might actually get a chance to push through over on this side. That would obviously be a pretty big deal, being able to break in over on this front. He's running out of interceptors though, and these last few neuroparasites have been great. Being able to grab those Archons has been a big part of taking out the interceptors and hence forcing Classic to A-turn around, but then just abducting them in and getting even more damage on the back of it, and it all builds up, and Classic loses out big time. He thought he had the opportunity to fight there. He did not, and Elazer's going to win that battle. And just really thought he was going to be able to make his way into that position, but yeah, that was a misread opportunity. It was not an opportunity in the slightest. Carriers now hurting big time, and I think Elazer might actually just continue through to win outright here, because you look at his, I mean, Classic's rebuilding, of course, the power of 6 targets, but his bank is completely gone. So unless this next fight is extremely good for Classic, and he can reset the bank of Elazer should just be able to take this next fight, rebuild, and when he goes again, there shouldn't be anything left from Classic. Because again, Classic has the production structures to rebuild quickly. He just only had the bank to do that once, and that's the biggest problem of all. Bane's gonna try and roll through from some static defense to open up this position over here. Well, Bane's connecting in, a few probes going down, continue to try and chase some more of those probes down as well. Chasing out up to the top, a few Void Rays coming in, those Banelings continue to get shot down as well. A little bit more damage being done as the Ultras will get chased out of here. And Classic has been kept on the same sort of 6-ish bases now for a little while, not being allowed to go elsewhere. And again, it's one of those constraints that will only help Elazer as we progress on through. 20 minutes deep on Moondance, and game 2 of this best of 5. Classic leads the series 1-0, so Elazer is obviously looking to try and tie the series up here. As Classic going to send the Void Rays as a little bit of a hit squad across over to the right, so they're going to make their move. Try and make something happen. They're going to activate. There's so many spores here, and they'll get through a few of them. The question is, how much does it really matter? Hard to say I'm totally convinced just yet. There he is, and our Templar all joined up together there, and they will see what they can do. The other Void's coming across as well, and we'll be seeing the Void's actually going to activate there and pushing back a little bit. Coming on this left-hand side, a bunch of these cannons and batteries going down as well, so another little loss. As we lose out on that, and just going to be seeing the Templar, Disruptors, Carriers, and Voids hanging out. Well, Classic's army is substantial once more, and I tell you what, he's also built up a bank again. His bank is getting to a pretty crazy point. The slings are becoming more and more problematic. With all the stacked defense down, you lose a lot of the potential that you had of defending these bases. Right now, it becomes so much tougher, so Elazer doesn't even have to commit as much to to be an annoyance on those bases. And if Classic resets all that stacked defense, there goes a lot of the mineral bank that he just built up at the very least. And that's a choice he has to make, whether he really wants those bases to be super secure once more and stop Elazer from harassment, which I think you probably do need to do, unless you don't think those bases are going to be that important and you're going to be giving them up soon to do other things. You do see Classic expanding in the forward position in the center of the map. By taking this expansion here, he might be able to just defend with his army, and he probably will still need stack defense, right? Because at the end of the day, stack defense is what makes these fights worthwhile for you, taking them back at home. But maybe that'll be the new location he looks to hold onto, and he'll just forget about the upper right for a bit. If he holds the center, he can also take the left side, and if he takes the left side as well, I mean, that's a combination of things he can just kind of take control of. Two bases here, and then again later in the game maybe you work your way to the top right. It also then maybe gives you the chance to just that opportunity to potentially say, right, well, your fresher bases are down the bottom left as well, so while I'm taking my base here, maybe I can also try and deny one of your bases too. So it really does have that kind of combo effect. Another counterattack, and I mean, these bases are running out of gas as well, so it really does get to the point of, like, when do you give up on these? Well, you can't give up on them too much, because the moment these bases go down is the moment the rest of the map is opened up, and then your base is obviously your main base is the next target. That's where your production is. You can't go giving up production, so you are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. These bases almost aren't important enough anymore to actually kind of defend, but if you don't defend those, that attack's already going to just end up on your main. So what those bases still kind of provide is buffer. If nothing else, a pre-warning, but the units will typically stop there and fight those structures, and if they are doing that, it gives you time to go and deal with it, and that gives you time to preserve the main base. And that's why we probably will see Classic continue to defend those positions, even if overall it's probably not really the most necessary thing for him to be doing. It's the knock-on effect of losing the base. There's 99 Spore Crawlers in this game. That's a hell of a Spore Crawler count. You see the Ultra showing up again. The few Void Rays going to come in and try and defend this. So it's like, this isn't good for us. You got those guys that can shoot us and we can't shoot them. So they're going to try and back it up, try and give themselves safe for another fight. We're going to take this as a chance to dive into some of these spores over here. Classic gets through, trying to pick away at a little bit right from the start. Does okay, nothing too crazy. Let's get rid of this hatchery on the right-hand side. It's denying a base from Elazer. Resources lost massively in favor of Elazer. 31k to, what was that, 24? So that's a 22 even. So that's a really big deal. It means that Elazer can get away with being on less bases than Classic. It's very rare that the Protoss player is the one that needs to outmine the Zerg. So that's actually a really big thing to take note of, because if you need to outmine the Zerg, like I say, that's not usually how it works, and it just puts so much pressure on the Protoss player to then be the one making moves and initiating fights and everything. So that actually scares me a lot more for Classic than anything else, because again, usually if it goes to a drawn-out game and you get to mine your bases, usually the Zerg gets to this army, which is kind of like one last attempt, but Classic is going to have that one last attempt army sooner than the Zerg will, and that definitely is cause for concern if you're cheering on Classic. You're going to see a fight here. Fungal Growths go off across on the Interceptors, so they get absolutely covered. And, I mean, again, just the stack defense for the most part is just holding on, right? It's doing just fine. And the carriers are going to sit on the far left-hand side. And just going to hang out over there as the Voids have still been trying to harass on the right again, trying to keep those bases on the right side being taken. Classic is actually getting to the stage where he actually will start to mine more than the Zerg player. Like I said, it's not something that happens a lot, but when it does happen, that's a pretty crazy addition. The Blinding Cloud, oh sorry, not Blinding Cloud, the Microbial Shroud coming through again. Resources lost 33k, that's 26k. So it's not getting any worse for Classic in terms of resources lost. The previous fights haven't been overly terrible for him. You end up abducting a Disruptor and just going to be having the next Disruptor shot coming through as well. Doesn't quite manage to land. Well, now this left-hand side, I mean, like I say, if you don't take those forward bases on the right as the Zerg, that could be a problem. I'm going to start giving up the Void Rays here. They kind of just dive by. He's going to build up more Tempest, it seems. Wants to start chipping away at these structures from afar instead, so looking to make that kind of play. There's his army. 13 Infestors, 4 Vipers. I'm actually kind of amazed that he only has 7 Corruptors. I wonder if that could come back to bite him at all. Yeah, like maybe. Actually going to see a couple of these Voids still around, and actually going to go for the Spire. We'll get rid of that, so Spire goes down. That's kind of a factor as well, as we just see the left-hand side. Interceptors going wild on the Ultras that are over there. It's doing pretty good with that. Just going to see a little bit more. Continue to be set up now, so... Yeah. I mean... Again, still a overall pretty wild position. I mean, it's one of the... I really become very invested now in these left side bases, because Classic is kind of keeping them going. And if you can keep these going and Elazer can't mine the right side, that would be the deal breaker, perhaps. So, it's getting into more and more exciting times as we speak. Times are a-changing. Harry's going to join up with the Tempest. The Corruptors are going to start moving forward. They're going to grab an Observer in the front there, so able to pick that off already. Pro's going down, just going to be seeing again the Ultras in the top right. A base that only really has a few minerals left on it, right? The gas is mined out, and that at this stage might just be the more important resource. Again, Tempest count is up here, so now you can start chipping away from afar, and I wonder if Classic could kind of wish he'd done this sooner with the way the game turned out. If he'd had these Tempests just consistently hitting Spore Crawlers this entire time, he would have worked through Spore Crawler lines a long time ago, and I think the Tempests were something he was missing for a long time. And look how quickly these Spores are going to die as they're just on their own, fighting no support from anything else, and it's actually kind of a big deal that he's not getting any support here on those Spore Crawlers, because that's a lot of static defense going down. It's a lot of expense from a Elazer that just kind of falls out of nowhere. I wonder what that does to the resources lost tab. Let's have a peek. You can see it's evening out. Yeah, so all of that static defense going down. It used to be 99 spores, now it's 48. I mean, you're talking about thousands of minerals invested that have just gone from the map. Just completely disappeared, so... yeah, I mean, that's good. We do lose this base here from Classic. It looks like he's more concerned about mining the left side, and he only has 26 probes, so this high ground base wasn't mining yet anyway. So with that in mind, he can just take this later. At this point, you kind of just mine one base at a time. Your probe count is so low, your army count is so high. You just mine one base at a time, and your army just camps out on top of that base every single time, basically. That kind of becomes the continued plan here as we do see the Next hatchery attempt on the right. DT's going to be there to deny it. What's up, Harston? Welcome, everybody. You're joining us in a 31-minute game on Moondance in the WardiTV Team Liquid Map Contest Tournament quarter-finals between Classic and Elazer. Classic leads 1-0. Winner of this plays Max Packs in the semis, with Beyond versus Solar in the other semi-final. This game has been pretty drawn out at this stage, as you might be able to see. It's been a fun one, though. It's been very back and forth. There was a moment early in the game where Elazer really looked like he was going to win it, but we've kind of just been building up into larger and larger armies for a while, and most recently Classic has introduced a bunch of Tempests that seem to be the game changer. He's been picking through bases and spore crawler lines and just being able to much more successfully push forward in the last few moments since those Tempests have come into play. And you can see him right now just continuing to pick away at spores one at a time. And I was kind of saying, again, imagine he'd had these from the start. If he'd had these from the very start, the difference that could have made is absolutely huge. Storms coming down across the board, these queens getting hit big time, and the fungal growth's going down as well. More storms coming through, and again, just keeping this army back. Disruptor shot kind of firing on through there as well, and continuing to do pretty decently. Because this fight actually is going to go the way of Classic. I mean, we're at a point where Elazer doesn't have... He's got reinforcements coming. He's building 18 Corruptors. Corruptors on their own, are they going to be able to get the job done? There's a lot of Interceptors. You can see these Corruptors on the right side picking their way through a few extra carriers. It's one of these fights where it starts off looking very good for the Protoss, and it ends up not being as great as you think it would be. As now these Interceptors or carriers are all out of Interceptors, and if more Corruptors are starting to show up, these carriers start to go down. I really think that Classic should have backed away by now, because he should have known there were going to be reinforcements showing up. If reinforcements are showing up, then why are you still here? Why are you still trading with this army? Now we recall very late. Classic does have a ton of Stargates on the map. He's going to begin to build Void Rays with his reinforcement money. Well, that's going to be kind of the end of his money as well. 12 probes left. He's got a little bit of mining here and there. But that round of Void Rays and a few Archons he's adding in, that's it. Like, he doesn't have a way to afford anything else. And the Elazer, he actually just made a surge of drones. And with bases now coming into the top right-hand side, the Elazer's going to be able to mine comfortably. And because he just lost his entire army, Classic can't really do anything about these top right bases. So fresh new bases from Elazer. He'll get his bank back online. And it looks like Elazer is on his way to victory here as Classic committed to the fight, but was maybe wrong to do so, unfortunately. This looks like we're going to get to a 1-1 scoreline. Classic just not quite finding a way through this army. It was very close, though, don't get me wrong. I really think if he just recalls much sooner, he gets carried away, kind of thinking like, oh, I got to keep going right now. If he recalls much sooner and he gets the Interceptors to rebuild ahead of the next fight and he gets some more Void Rays up, well, you know, even just some Archons, right? You're playing basically pure Corruptor here. If you can get anything online to help with that, I mean, that would also be kind of amazing. So, yeah, he could have recalled and just had so much more left over for the next fight, and I think that was his big mistake. And like I say, he should have known, like, it happens all the time in fights like this where the Protoss player starts out kind of winning and being ahead in supply, but just eventually Interceptors are running dry. The game is getting worse and worse. The position is, getting worse as well. And we just don't actually do what we need to do, which is back away earlier before it's too late. One more push in from Classic here as he's desperate to make something happen. The Void Rays are activated as fungal growth is going down on them. I mean, there's just so many Corruptors to work through. You can't really imagine this going the way of Classic right here with this amount of Zerg. GG is called at 35 minutes. It will not be our longest game of the tournament, but it was a long one, and it is going to be Elazer to tie us up 1-1 in the best of 5. Let's see what it brings us in. It's Protoss versus Zerg quarter-final matchup. Classic is in the bottom left-hand side, our red Protoss player, who honestly had chances in that last game and just really personally feel like he didn't make the most of them and misplayed a couple situations, but alas, it happens. In the top right, our blue Zerg tying the series with the long game. It's Elazer. We'll see if he plays that way twice. This is a shorter map. Well, imagine he sees a chance to get aggressive on this one. I'd be surprised if this also turned into a good old long macro affair or anything along those lines, so Expecting this to be a little bit of a quicker game. As we get set up here early on Waterfall and see just what will go down. Pulling back up to the upper right hand corner. Gonna get up into the main base. Obviously scouting early. Obviously always kind of funky after such a long game to reset to the early game and go through all these motions again, right? And to get all the setup going, get all the initial scouting going. Probe wasn't here early enough to deny the natural going down on location. That's something which Classic doesn't try to block every single time. We've seen a few pros players who have kind of taken that approach lately, just kind of given the Zergs that base a little bit more easily at times. This will be one of those occasions, and Classic has been one of those players to let that happen a reasonable amount as of late, so not too surprising as we continue in. And next is continuing up. Cybercore going to complete. And all of this just continuing through here. The early stages, getting this up and running. Probe comes along and let's chase down a little. We'll see if Classic wants to play a Stargate. He could, of course, play a Twilight Council. Just mentioned this is a bit of a shorter map, so maybe reason to switch it up. He'll play a Stargate to start at least. There's obviously nothing stopping him from switching up once this Stargate's finished and going one Oracle into a Twilight or so. But the initial intention, at least, is to play some kind of Stargate style, so not mixing up too much just yet. As this probe continues out down to the south. And the Adept continues up to the top as well. Everyone just kind of still scouting, like I say. After a game like the previous one, it feels like it takes a little while to mentally reset into the state of mind of, oh yeah, right, this game is kind of starting anew, and you know, for a few moments there ain't a lot going on. A few moments we all kind of just sat back and getting set up and waiting for structures to build and tech choices to be made. I really do think with this Stargate coming up that we are very likely to see a queen setup, a queen attack from Elazer. I become less. I believe more and more that that's absolutely going to be what happens here. Nexus goes down on the bottom side. As that Voidray moves up to the top and getting ready to go. Just going to be seeing our Voidray move along. A couple queens going to turn around onto that Voidray. It's going to take some damage, so a few shots going down there. And the queen coming through. Oracle taking some hits. The Spore Crawler is there as well. And that Oracle will be pushed away for the moment. Second Stargate, +1 attack. Again, confirmation that we are indeed just going to see something similar one more time from Classic. Not going to switch it up, as I was alluding to as a possibility. So, just going to stick with what it is for now. This Oracle gets pushed away, so that doesn't last very long over there. So that gets turned out. Now I'm just going to be seeing these Adepts coming through. Getting chased around a little bit, taking some shots and not really achieving all too much to start out on. We're going to see this Voidray activate on the right side. Is going to come on in and try and get a little bit more done as well. Not bad. Again, a few drones early. And what do you see? The Roachron finishing up in a sec here from Elazer. Money in the bank to build the Roaches. He's got the Overlords building to free up supply. There is no doubt in my mind that he's going to be moving across the map here sooner rather than later. Rubber facility is coming up as well. It's just getting that brought through. The extra batteries still being made also. Again, these Void Rays join up on the bottom side. Just going to be hanging out and trying to get the defense going. Here comes our attack from Elazer, moving through. So the Queen's at the front. Roach Ravager Ling building up behind this. We'll see batteries coming online. Some of them stacked up together. He biles down the two on the right, and well, the super battery doesn't last very long at all. We are going to start targeting firing down the Ravagers. Removing the Ravagers removes the biles. Removing the biles removes a lot of the damage output that you face here. So the quicker you get rid of that, the better it's going to be for you typically. And the Void Rays are going to activate as these few Lings will be pushed back. And I don't think Elazer's breaking through at all. There's still a lot of batteries on the left side. These Queens are not going to make the difference at the end here, and it's not like that lair is really for teching up. That lair is just in case DTs are coming through. There's going to be a defense, and then once this is defended, we're going to lose one Void Ray here, but once this is defended, you can typically take these Void Rays across the map for a lot of damage, because the Elazer's not going to have a lot back at home, because all his Queens have died, and that's where the game typically ends, and so Elazer's just not going to... In the bottom right-hand side, that's where we're going to start, at least. It is going to be a Red Zerg player who finds himself down in the series. Let's see if he can fight back. Turn this around a little bit. It is Elazer. Match point, looking to move through to the semi-finals here. In the top side, we have got our blue Protoss player, Classic. Hey, what's up, Lee? Thank you so much for the 2-month resub. Welcome back. Appreciate the resub. Thank you so much for resubscribing. What happened last game? Failed Queen Walk? Exactly. That's exactly what happened. Just an attack from Elazer that really didn't go well at all. And put him in a bit of trouble. He just kind of tapped out from there and didn't decide to stick around beyond that. I do not blame him for said choice. Makes a lot of sense, to be honest. As we look to continue through and let's see what will be up next now. Probe nibbling up a drone. A bit of aggression to start us out as we go back and forth for a little while. I'm taking a couple of shots once again. Stargate build, and I guess we should not be surprised by that, as we otherwise get set up and into this action. My friends, it is map number 4, and just waiting for all of the fun games to kickstart once again. Going through our early game PvZ motions. What's up, Narumi? 1337 on the Prime for the 14-month resub. Welcome back. Thank you so much for the support. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. And there's another sub that came through that I didn't mention. Lily7, I did mention that one. It was Duke87765 for 11 months that came in during that last series, though. That one I did not catch. So thank you so much for the resub on that as well, guys. I do appreciate it. If you're enjoying the stream, subscribing helps us out a whole bunch. Allows us to keep on running our events and casting StarCraft for you every day and just doing StarCraft stuff, basically. So if you're enjoying the stream, do consider subbing. If not, at the very least, do follow the channel to see when we're live. The second best thing you can do is to watch the stream and watch all the games and watch all the StarCraft that we got for you guys. So check all that out. Oracle comes in, gets a couple of drones. The queens on the right are going to just not get the Oracle. All drones just actually managing to escape away to the side. Oracle is going to come back into the center. And obviously we'll be back on the map soon with shields back up at least. Hey, George W. Go, thank you so much for the Prime sub. Appreciate the support. Thank you very much. Singling out the left-hand side, just going to be seeing the setup here as we do have the Oracle again is just going to be pushed away. Second Stargate one more time from Classic. He is just not switching up his style at all in this series. He is very content doing what he's, just doing the same thing on repeat. Which is maybe just a testament to how much he believes in his build. Maybe just a testament to that. He kind of believes Elazer might play aggressively into him and he's fine with that. There's a few different ways to kind of look at that on what you think it means. Most importantly, it means that we're going to have Void Rays again. Now, there's a Twilight Council and a Robo. So, Twilight and Robo coming up. We'll see how quickly the ground transition comes in. And maybe he just cuts on 4 Void Rays here and doesn't go as Skytoss heavy. Maybe plays a ground army and just a little bit of mix-up for a while. It's also possible. First couple of voids coming out the front and just going to be holding out. There's a fleet beacon on the way, so it does look as though we'll continue into Skytoss pretty swiftly. Just going to have that charge come up, I'd imagine, and just getting into a few zealots. Just to harass with, maybe buffer with as well, should the situation arise where they need to be maybe used in front of an army. That's more or less what we're going for at the moment, so. We still do hold Void Ray production, though, right? It still does just, hold on 4 Void Rays and we'll resume again in a second, but yeah, it's somewhat notable, I suppose. Going to the left-hand side, we'll take a Nexus, and the Void Ray just going to push the Ling out on the left-hand side there, so that Ling gets pushed out as well. Voids are again back to the center, and joining up there to see what can be done. Extra round of cannons on the low ground and stack defense establishing. We take a 4th base. We got a few spine crawlers up across the board here as well, and both plays are just, with Pathogen Glands coming up, it's kind of that agreement to just go in towards this later game again, right? Classic's going to be allowed to just go straight up into his carriers and everything. Elazer won't contest that, and then Elazer's going to go up into his infestors, and his later game setup will be well underway. And that is just kind of the stalemate we will find ourselves in a second time here now. Two Voids pressing forward. The Queen's here right away to come and fight them, and the Voids will get pushed back. So the Voids don't last in the front for all too long. Well, Infestors on the way out. Yep, sounds about right, doesn't it? Sounds about right. Definitely seem to know where these guys want to go. What do you think, guys? Does Singularity allow us to go for 30 minutes plus again, or do we think this map might be a little bit more kind of friendly on the time? It's possible. It's a sizable map. I do think the bases on this map are a little bit further apart, so there should be some more options for getting aggressive just a little bit earlier in the game, I believe. I think there should just be a couple of extra opportunities for something like that to come on through this time around, so I don't think we should stretch the game out. I mean, it's still possible the game goes as long, even if the, if the harassment, is increased. Yeah. Yeah, maybe actually we do just have another very long game ahead of us here. I mean, we're going to go into Blink. So the Blink suggests that we're going to have a fight here from Classic. That's going to be a big fight, and he's going to look to pretty much instantly rebuild into his ground army. So as the fight goes on, he's going to be warping in Stalkers, and having that instant rebuild is obviously very dangerous, because then the Zerg is, going to get outmassed pretty quickly if he's not careful. So maybe something along those lines here from Classic, instead of setting up into the 9 Stargates and the Skytoss rebuild that we saw previously. Maybe that's the kind of direction we begin to move into now. All these infestors setting up and sitting down on the bottom side of the map, and just going to see carriers, immortals. Out on the left, another round of spores building in the middle of the map as well, so all of that coming online. And again, these voids and carriers are going to come straight into the center. Gonna pick up some of the group spread and just push that back. Like I say, the bases really are a lot more spread out from the left side to the right side. The difference in what could be kind of 2 different third bases is hugely kind of dramatic how far apart they are. It definitely feels like there'll be a lot more. And I think that's why Classic is not going left and right on the map. And as the laser spreads out on the bottom, you can see Classic kind of doing the opposite, spreading out along the top. And I think I understand why, because I do think just spreading out the left, down the left side is going to be easier, and each of your bases is going to overall be closer to the next one. So I think that's the better position to be in, and I think that's the position Classic would much rather be in here overall. Pushing forward is going to be seeing disruptor shots flying through, landing for a queen initially, and yes, going to now see these Neurals going off. A lot of the Immortals being caught in Neural Parasite of all things, so using these Immortals to help clean out the ground army. Some Archons getting caught as well. The idea is if this ground army gets caught and cleans up, then obviously the air units maybe can get cleaned up without the support on the ground, but it didn't really work, did it? Supply of Elazer is gone, and this army of Classic has absolutely just won out here. No doubt about that in the slightest, and it looks as though Classic is going to win this series. Move on into the semi-finals to face off against MaxPax. Will give us a PvP semi-final, but it guarantees us a non-mirror matchup, as the winner of MaxPax Classic will play versus